نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي ربي يسر ولا تؤسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا رحيم المساكين يا أرحم الراحمين حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم اللهم منزل الكتاب سريع الحساب اهزم الأحزاب اللهم اهزمهم وزلزلهم اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu once again. Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, today we are going to talk about ayah number 191 from Surah Al Imran, which is the third surah of the Quran. So we'll go over the recitation and the meaning first. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار.
So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Alladhina, those who, Yadkuruna, they remember, they do the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Yadkuruna, they remember, they do the dhikr. Dhikr of what? Dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how do they do it? In what position? Qiyaman. Qiyaman means to stand. Like even when we call for salah, we say iqama salah, right? And the position in the salah, in our namaz, when we are praying and standing, that is called the qiyam, right? So qiyaman is standing. Wa qu'udan is to sit down, so sitting. Wa ala junubihim, and on their sides, meaning when they're lying down upon their sides. So three physical situations are told here: standing, sitting, and when somebody's lying down on their sides. They're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all these times. Wa yatafakkaruna, and they do fikr, they reflect, they do tafakkur. Tafakkur is to reflect, to think deeply about something, to ponder about something, to contemplate about something, like to be very mindful, to think deeply, basically, like to think really deeply and go like, what are the lessons from this? Why is this happening? How is this happening? What does this teach me? So all that thing comes with, all that is fikr, tafakkur, right? So, and they reflect fi khalqi samawati wal ard. They reflect on what? They reflect on khalq. Khalq is creation. Creation of what? Creation of as-samawati wal ard, of the heavens and the earth. And by implication, it means everything that is contained in the heavens and the earth as well. Right? Rabbana, and they say, basically when they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all these positions, they reflect on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they say, Rabbana, our Lord, our creator, our Rabb. Rabb is a word that includes in it the meanings of a creator, a sustainer, somebody who's taking care of something, somebody who's maintaining something, somebody who's helping to something to survive, and somebody who grows that thing too, like takes something from one stage to the other and grows it, right? So that's all contained in the meaning of Rabb. Rabbana, our Lord, ma khalaqta, you have not created hadha, this, batilan, in vain. With batil is something that is opposite of haq. Haq is something that is truth, something that is purposeful, and batil is the opposite, something either which is useless, that it has no purpose, like just somebody started doing something. There was no truth to it, there was no dalil for it, there was nothing, no reason for it, and there was no purpose for it either, right? But what we are saying is, after the people, they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they reflect on the creation, they say, you have not created all of this batilan, in vain. Subhanak, Glory be to you, meaning you're pure, you're far too perfect for this, right? So they talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Subhanak, faqina adab an-nar. So save us from the punishment of the fire. Adab is the punishment, an-nar, the fire. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala standing and sitting and lying on their sides and ponder on the creation of the heavens and the earth and say, our Lord, you have not created all of this in vain. We proclaim your purity, your perfection. So save us from the punishment of the fire. So the way this ayah is starting is those who, which kind of tells us, okay, those who, so meaning it links to something from before, right? So that's so we need to look at what was the ayah before this. So before this, the ayah before this, the ayah number 190, what did it say? Inna fi khalqi samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of the day and night, there are the signs for the men of understanding, for the people of understanding, right? Ulil albab, and we'll talk a little bit about more about this ulil albab. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines ulil albab by saying alladhina yadhkuruna. So basically it's continuing from there. So we need to kind of see first of all the relationship of this ayah with the previous ayah. Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab. Surely there are signs for the people of understanding. There are ayat for ulil albab. Now the ayat, we talked about ayat before. Ayat is miraculous signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something that points to something else, something that is meaningful, something that is precious, right? So there are signs, there are ayat inside the creation of the heavens and the earth and in the day and night and everything for ulil albab. So first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that there are signs inside it, inside the creation of this. So inside this for the people of sound minds. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying there is a sign in something, so in a way we can think of it like just there are no examples for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but something to just help us understand. We can think of it like a treasure hunt. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left signs for us to find in the creation. Like we cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of us feel a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our heart. We know there is a God, we feel it, and but we yearn to meet him, we yearn to see him, we yearn to to know that he's pleased with us. But the limitation of this life on this earth is that we cannot see him, we cannot talk to him. We know that before we came to this earth, we had a conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He asked us, he told us in the Quran, he asked all the souls were created, and he asked all of us, am I not your Rabb? And we replied, yes, your Lord, you are our Rabb, and we'll worship you alone and everything. And then we came to this earth. So all of us have this in our fitra. It's ingrained in our inner consciousness that there is a God, right? And we spend our life, and sometimes when we are away from God, we feel that void inside us, and that void fills when we come to God and everything. But we can't see him yet. At this, the limitation of this world, again, we can't see him, but we want to know him, we want to know more and more about him. But to know him, and he knows this is a need we have, so to fulfill that need and to help us understand our purpose, he has left signs for us everywhere. In everything there are signs, meaning the signs are not just there. We have to dig a bit deep, we have to find them like a treasure hunt. Yeah, those things are right there, but you have to take a few steps here and there, and you have to dig, and you have to find the treasure, you have to find the things, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put the signs in the two kind of ayat that he has given us. One is the ayat kauni, and one is ayat qur'ani. And ayat qur'ani, we know the ayat of the Quran that we are learning, and ayat kauni is the ayat in the universe, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the universe around us. So he has left the signs for us, but it's not for everybody. It's for li ulil albab, right? So who are these people of who are ulil albab, right? And ulil albab refers to, basically, lub is the center of the fruit, the most precious thing of something, the most fruitful, the most delicious part of the fruit. It's like it's the middle part of it, right? So the lub, in terms of human beings, when we say ulil albab, it refers to people who have sound minds and heart, who are wise people, who are insightful people. They're honest and upright. people. And they when they come in contact with any kind of truth, they find resonance with their own nature and common sense. It makes sense to them. It just clicks in their heart. They just feel it, like this is the truth and everything. They can tell, and they're honest people. They're honest in their dealings. They're upright. Yes, mistakes happen from them, just like from all of us. We're all human beings. Yes, they make mistakes, but they are honest to the best of their ability. They want to do good. They don't want to do evil. They don't want to harm anybody. They want to be good people, right? And they want to do good things and everything. They don't want to be arrogant. They don't want to be greedy. They don't want to be jealous of other people. They don't. And yes, these diseases come sometimes, but they want to remove them. These diseases, when they start to come, they feel uncomfortable to them. They want to get rid of them, right? They don't. So sometimes jealousy does come against somebody. Like, let's say somebody wants something and other person has it and you don't have it, then you will feel something, but they don't like that feeling. They want to get rid of it quickly and everything, and they do. They're able to get rid of it, even if it does come, even if shaitan does some waswasa, they're able to. So they are the people who are who are honest and upright, meaning in their heart. And in another place of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the heart as a lamp. And what happens to a lamp which has light inside? If the lamp, the outer cover of the lamp gets a lot of dirt, then the light gets trapped inside. It can't come outside, right? So the light gets trapped inside. So similarly on the heart, if there's like dirt outside, meaning like dishonesty or greed or too much love for this dunya, or the thirst for power or money or acknowledgement, or the need for wanting fame, or any of these kind of diseases of the heart which are there, what happens is the light gets trapped inside. So even if the person comes in contact with the truth, they don't actually they don't actually feel that this is the truth. They are more irritated by it and everything, right? So um, um, we need light to see, right? Anything that we need to see, if there is no light at all, we are not able to see. So when this light inside is trapped, then we can't see outside. On the other hand, the people who are sound, who have a clean heart, meaning that they're outside, they take effort to clean it again and again. When some dirt comes, they clean it. They clean their heart again and again. What happens is when they come across the truth, they realize it. So it kind of, their light inside helps them see the light outside, and it becomes nurul ala nur, right? The nur upon nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in the Surah Al-Nur. So ulul albab are the people whose fitra is intact, their inside is intact, and because of that, they're able to think clearly, they're able to think deeper and everything. Another way of thinking about the ulul albab, to understand who the people are, is ulul albab is, if we look at the whole of the Quran, some scholars have said that there are three, have classified it in this way. There are three major themes, let's say, in the Quran, right? And which help the people of in Ulul Albab are the people who remember and are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all these three themes help them to connect more and more to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how so? The first theme is the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is manifested through his creation. So throughout the Quran, we will learn about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala will tell us, look at the skies, look at the leaf, look at this, and see what is going on and everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us to think about this, think about the rain, think about the light, think about the how the seed grows into a whole tree, think about the birds, and think about the migratory birds, think about all these different kinds of birds that are there and how they survive, think about how the different cycles are running, think about our own human body, for example, all the kind of creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Through all of this theme, what happens is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness is manifested. And what happens to ulul albab when they come across this? They acknowledge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness. They acknowledge that, Ya Rab, this is amazing. This is so amazing. Then how amazing would be the one who created all of this? Right? They acknowledge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness, and they learn from the Quran as well. And what happens as a result of all of this? They develop love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases. Every time they know something more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they love him a bit more. the love increases a little bit more. Like for example, when we don't know somebody, and let's say somebody we are told that okay, you should love this leader of yours. Again, there are no examples for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but just to help us understand, love this leader of yours. And we are like, oh well, okay, I guess I can love this person, but why should I love him? Like, what's the big deal? And then when we learn the life of this person, how he stood up for justice, how he did there was this thing going on, what is his characteristics, like how he is the honest person, the just person, and how he takes care of those who are poor or in need or everything. And we learn about his life and his attributes and what are his qualities and everything, and we learn what all he does and everything. That helps us to know this person more. And then when we know that what this person is doing for us specifically, for me specifically as a leader, what are the policies he has put in place that are impacting my life directly, that helps me to love that leader. Okay, now I am starting to love. And the more I know, the more like, okay, yeah, I look up to this leader. I love this leader and everything. So the more, similarly, the more we know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether through the ayat of the Quran or through his creation, the more we will acknowledge the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we will develop this love for him. The love for him will increase, right? And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma inni asaluka hubbak wa hubba man yuhibbuk wa hubba amali yukarribuni ila hubbik. Like we ask, Ya Allah, I ask you for your love, and love of the things that you love, and love of the people that you love, right? So ulil alba, one of the qualities is when they come across this one theme, they develop this love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They acknowledge the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second is the lessons from history. Like in the Quran, we will see a lot of things about history. We just learned about the whole passage about the Battle of Uhud. For the Sahabas at that time, the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this was something that was happening at that moment, like 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago, one day ago, 1 month ago. For us, that is also history. Battle of Uhud is a history. Battle of Badr is a history. What happened with other prophets is a history, right? And through all these different history, when the and there all this history helps us to draw powerful lessons. What happened to different people? What did they do in this situation? And how did the people how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala support somebody? How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punish some group of people? Why were they punished? What was their attitude like? Right? What was the attitude of the believers at different parts of the history of the humankind like? And how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help them? How little resources that they have, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made those very little resources sufficient for them. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave miraculous signs to different people. So all of this, when all this history, all these stories that we learn, what happens to the people, the people who have sound minds and sound hearts, is they develop hope and fear in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hope that even if I don't have much, even if I have little bit, if I am working towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take care of me. Fear that the Rabb who has created all of this, who has put all of this in place, how mighty he is, and I cannot go against his commands. He has asked me to do something. How dare I not do that? The fear that, Ya Rabb, I don't want you to be upset with me, Ya Rabb. Right? And the third part of the Quran is the Sharia. Shar is something that leads to water, right? The path that leads to water. So Sharia is divine instructions, right? And Sharia includes both manners and rules. So throughout the Quran, we will learn manners and rules as well. Like rules are, for example, this is halal and this is not, this is haram. Like we can eat this, we cannot eat this. There are certain things we are not allowed to eat, certain things we can eat. There are laws of inheritance. Those are laws as well. How much, when somebody passes away, how much money should go to whom and everything, right? And so there are laws of different things. There's laws of fasting, like we fast when we stop eating when it is the dawn breaks, and we start eating again after at sunset. We cannot just change it. It's a law. It's a rule. It is fixed. I cannot say, okay, I will fast during the night, and when it comes when the fasting is in summertime, when Ramadan comes in summertime, I'll fast during the night and I'll eat during the day. It's not intermittent fasting. It is Ramadan. Like there's a rule to it. We have to follow the rule. And it also includes manners. Like it's not illegal to say off to your parents when your parent to be rude to your parents, but it is being recorded. It is the manners. We are told that the believers walk on the earth humbly. They're not proud people. They're not full of themselves people, right? They walk on the earth humbly. They're soft and gentle in their speech. They're smiling to people. They have a nice countenance. Like they, and at the same time, they're firm as well. Like the so they have certain manners to them and everything. So ulil albab are people who have all of this. And when we understand this from this perspective, ulil albab, the people of sound minds, sound hearts, when their hearts are correct, it's not polluted by different things. And these people are able to take lessons from different things. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains more about them, that who, according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala call ulil albab? He explained that. And this happens some at different times in the Quran. So for example, at the beginning of Surah Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alif Lam Mim, Dhalikal Kitabu la rayba fi hudal lil muttaqin. This book is a guidance for those who have taqwa. Alladhina yadhkuruna Allah. Like, and then he says, Dhalikal Kitabu la rayba fi hudal lil muttaqin. And then he explains who the muttaqi are in the next few ayat. Like they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they offer salah, they they believe in the unseen and everything. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains all of that. Similarly here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the signs are there for ulil albab. And who are the ulil albab? Now in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to tell us who are the intelligent people, who are the wise and insightful people, who does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regard as wise and insightful people, right? Those are the people who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all situations. They're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they ponder over the creation of the heavens and the earth. They think deeply about it, right? One point here is to understand is it's a distinction between the two things. They remember Allah and they ponder on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So we don't, and it's very distinct. We remember Allah, but we don't remember the heavens and the earth. Like we don't, it's not the mother nature for us. For us Muslims, it's not mother nature. It's not mother nature that's doing everything. Our worship is for Allah alone. Our remembrance is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But our pondering is for the creation. And the pondering is not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a'udhu billah, right? So we don't, if somebody starts pondering over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's being, then they will get lost, right? Because what happens, and the Prophet ﷺ told us in a hadith to the effect of, the shaitan comes to a person and says, okay, who made this? Who made this? And the person says, Allah. Then he says, okay, who made this? Allah. Then who made this? Allah. And then he said, okay, then who made Allah? Right? And the person goes, and that leads to like a person like, okay, the person gets confused and everything. And basically that's how shaitan tricks a person, because he will make a person start to ponder upon the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we cannot ponder, we cannot imagine what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that about the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we cannot, his hands are not like our hands. His hands are not like the hands of anybody or any creation that we know, because he's not a creation. He is the creator, right? He's the ultimate creator. So when we start to ponder over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will, a'udhu billah, that is something that we must not do and protect ourselves against, because that will lead to us getting lost. All right. And we asked in the Fatiha, Ya Allah, we don't want to be of the dhalleen, the one who got lost, right? Because one of the major problems that comes in different religions and different things that we see is to make God into anthropomorphic, like to give human-like qualities to God. And people have done it in different cultures, in different things, in different faith traditions, which has led to shirk, right? Because it's like, okay, to make God into something like a human, or make an image of a human and then say this is God, that is not correct, because God is not human being, a'udhu billah. And no human being can be in the position of God. Like God is the one who created all of this. What human being can create the sun and the earth and the heavens and the earth and the celestial bodies and everything, right? And can maintain everything. So we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we ponder over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like, again, an example, a silly example, but again, examples help us, is when we have the sunlight helps us to see everything. But we cannot want to go to the sun and try to see the sun, because that way our eyes will burn, right? So the light of Allah subhanahu the light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us, the nur that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us, or the contemplation, the thinking deeply that we do on the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that help us to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we cannot know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like that. We can only know in this life Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through his signs. And that's why his signs are so important, because that's what connects us to him, right? So dhikr and fikr, there is a difference, right? Dhikr is remembrance and fikr is pondering. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also teaching through these ayat the best way for us to learn science, actually. You know, so when we go out in this world and we look at like flower, and what is science? If you look at the subject science, that is to look and observe the world around us and to make intelligent inferences out of it and everything based on either what we observe or we experiment, and then to make certain intelligent basically, and it keeps changing because our observations will keep changing, our experiments will keep changing, and different things will keep happening like this, right? So we will keep learning from that. So when we go out in this world, when we see the mountains, we see the seas, we see the rivers, we see the animals, we go to the labs, our scientists, our doctors, we do dissections, we do analysis, we do, how did this happen and why did this happen and who did this and everything. All this is tafakkur, all this is contemplation and everything, right? And the result of all this contemplation, when they do all this content, when there's somebody who remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who are ulul albab, who are remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a lot, and then they make all these reflections and thinking and everything, then they come to the conclusion that Rabbana ma khalaqta hadha batila. Ya Rab, you have not created all of this in vain. There is nothing in this world that is useless. Like even on our own body, everything has a purpose. The nails have a purpose, the hair has a purpose, the eyelids have a purpose, the eyelashes have a purpose, like the little bend above our lips, which under the nose, the little thing which filtrum it's called, I think that also has a purpose. It allows us to speak, it helps us to speak and make different kind of sounds. So this is not like in some cultures say Ram ki Leela, right? It's not fun and games. This world is not just fun and games. There is a purpose to it. رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. So the different levels to what a person is. The first level is dhikr. And what is dhikr? Dhikr is mentioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is also remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So two different things. Mentioning, like if I sit and I'm just saying Subhanallah, 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 I'm doing a tasbih, I'm just repeating from my mouth, I'm saying. Or if like right now, what we are doing, we are talking about Allah, so we are talking about the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are doing it, we are mentioning from our mouths, so it is a mention, right? We are mentioning the ayat and the lessons of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through it. So this is a kind of dhikr of mentioning. When we talk to somebody and we are giving them dawah, we're telling them about Islam, we are telling them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is a dhikr as well. When we are calling, when we're telling them, you know what, think about this, and there is a God and everything, that is dawah, that is dhikr. Another thing is remembrance, and remembrance means, let's say I'm a student, I'm giving my exam, and then I have an opportunity to cheat, but I'm like, okay, no, I'm not going to cheat. But where did this come from that I'm not going to cheat? Because I remembered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I remembered that there is a God who's watching. Even if I have this opportunity in front of me that nobody would come to know I cheated, but Allah knows and I won't do it, right? Or I have an opportunity to oppress somebody, but I don't do it. I'm able to be nasty to somebody and get away with it, but I don't do it because I remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So that is also dhikr. In our different positions that we do, that's also dhikr. So remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and mentioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And if we look at the whole of the Quran, the maximum what we have been told to do, yes, we have been told to pray and fast and give charity and all that is also there. But out of all the commands, one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us more than anything else is dhikr, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Repeatedly, we are told in the Quran, remember Allah, be mindful of Allah, right? And all other worship, all other acts, so this is an act of worship to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but all other acts of worship have certain protocol to it. right? Like for example, if we have to do our salah, we have to do a wudu, we have to be in a position of purity. The area has to be clean, and we get to pray and everything. When we do hajj, there is a certain way to do it. When we do ramadan, there is certain timing of the when we observe our fast and what we do during ramadan and everything. But for dhikr, there is no protocol for it. It can be done in any situation, anyhow, whatever situation we are in, right? There is no restriction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be remembered at a particular time only, right? Or like that, okay, only in this situation we can remember him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is desired and sought after at every time and in every condition, whether we are standing or sitting or lying down, whether we are busy or whether we are free, whether we are active or whether we are taking rest, whether our life, our situation, we are in hardship or we are in ease. No matter what situation what we are in, as much as for our human life in this world, just like taking breath is essential to live, so the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is essential for our spiritual life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran in Surah Aal, ala bidhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, that indeed in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do the hearts find rest. Any heart that is not remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that heart will be agitated. Whether they admit it to anybody else or not, they will be agitated. They will not find sukoon, because sukoon is in tamanina. Like it is tranquility is in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the quality of truly wise people with sound minds of ulul albab is that they are never without the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're never heedless of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter what situation they are in, they're never heedless of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And when we are saying that in all positions they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the implications that the scholars have also said here is it refers to that standing, usually the situation standing is used for something like running around, we're doing work. It reminds us of a very active kind of a position, like doing errands or doing chores around the house or outside, or doing work, or in your workplaces, or schools or other places like that, standing, like doing something around. So they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all these positions, meaning even when, let's say, a doctor is taking care of a patient, or an engineer is building a bridge, or, a salesperson is selling something, or an employee is working for somebody, in all these positions, they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning they remember the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that okay, my Rabb is watching me, I need to be careful what I'm doing. They remember him sitting refers to, has been said that it can refer to social gatherings, when we sit together with people, when we are sitting with our family members, when we are sitting with our friends, when we are sitting with the community members, when we're sitting and generally having a talk with somebody about anything, these social gatherings, do we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? The Prophet ﷺ told us that to the effect that any gathering in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name is not mentioned at all, those gatherings will be a source of hasra for us. Those we will be pained by those gatherings on the day of judgment. They will be like useless gatherings where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not mentioned at all. That's why whenever we sit, it is told that before we get up, if even if nothing else, at least remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the beginning and the end. This is subhanakallahumma. So we say the dua at the end and everything. So social gatherings as well. And lying on the side, it refers to a very intimate position, like a person is by themselves. Like there's nobody else around, they're by themselves, they're in solitude, and they don't forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even in that time. They remember him at that time. And also some people have also said that this refers to also the positions of praying our salah. Like if someone, and usually we pray salah standing and everything, but if someone is not well or something, they can pray sitting. And if somebody is really not well, they can pray while lying down as well, right? Or everything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it so easy for us that we can remember him in all positions, right? And another thing is that some scholars have also said that we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned all these positions because it helps us to understand that a person is remembering Allah all the time. No matter what position they are in, they don't forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much that people start to say, this person's a bit crazy, isn't it? Like, are you okay? Like, you're a bit I mean, this is a bit weird though. Like you're always okay. Like, come on, like you're always talking about God and everything. But like they say, the scholars recommend that we should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much that people actually start to think of you as a bit crazy or a bit like thing. But that's not a bad thing, actually. That's not a bad thing when that happens. That we, and a person who is so fond of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has so much love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they develop thus so much appreciation of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and so much love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it will be easy for them to go to the next level, which is what? Which is Gaur fikr, which is tafakkur, right? And they reflect on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, these two things, they go hand in hand together, right? Remembering Allah and pondering and thinking about the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And how do they go together? Because in the absence of contemplation, if somebody is just remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they are not thinking deeply, they're not using their mind, they're not thinking deeply about what's going on, what will happen is eventually their dhikr will be reduced to a verbal exercise. They'll just say the tasbih, but they won't be able to get a deeper insight into the higher wisdom, right? They're through this pondering, through this reflecting, through this contemplation, it we will this will help us to grow steadily in our deen and in our wisdom, right? When we think deeply and everything, and it will also help us to attain certainty and of belief in the akhirah when we think deeply, and we'll come to how that will lead to it. But when we are able to think deeply along with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's when these two things, when they come together, then it will help a person really become an ulil albab. Is a personality which is all round personality. It's a spiritual as well as intellectual. These two things are not these two things are not divorced from each other, right? Spiritual for a Muslim, for a ulil albab, especially the people of sound wisdom, who are the people of sound minds, they don't fracture these two parts. They don't look at just spirituality, and when they're looking at spirituality, they forget all about intellectual. That somebody saying, like some people say, okay, I remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much and everything, like I'm just cut off from the world. It doesn't work like that. Our deen does not let us do that. We cannot cut ourselves off from the world. We have a life to lead. We have relationships. We have to eat. We have to drink. We have to take care of our health. We have to take care of our parents, our children, our spouses, our siblings, and we have to take care of our own needs as well. We cannot ignore them too. There is self-care. There's importance of self-care in our deen too, right? So all of these things are there, they go together, right? So we cannot just be spiritual, and we cannot be just intellectual either, because when somebody's just intellectual and they take out God from the equation, what happens then we see that a person has, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses somebody with such a good mind, such a strong mind, and they use it to create what? Atom bombs. They use it to create like weapons of destruction. They could have used the same mind to create things which can help mankind, which can do some things really good. Or people, some people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them the gift of the tongue. They can speak really well, and they use that speech to create fasad and fitna amongst people, to create friction amongst different people, right? Our job is to bring people together, not to separate them, right? So for us, what we have been told is that one, we remember Allah all the time, but we take out time for reflection. Like no reflection, this reflection we cannot do. Like we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even while we are doing our taxes, even when we are, when somebody's a doctor and in the operation theater and doing an operation, they'll remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even then while doing the things like, okay, Bismillah, okay, let me start. They'll be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's something which is always at the background. Like a Muslim is never disconnected from the thought of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the reminder of Allah, no matter what they're doing in day-to-day life. But for tafakkur, they have to take out some time. They have to take out some time for reflection. Like we cannot reflect upon the skies and the earth while we are doing our taxes, or while we are doing some work, while we are helping our children with their studies, or we are shopping or something or whatever. We sometimes in our life we have to take out these moments of time when we spend this time for reflection, right? So, and then the third level comes after somebody reflects and everything. They end up and their fitra, it just comes to this realization. They can't help but saying that, Ya Allah, you are the Rabb. All this didn't just come out from nowhere. This cannot happen by chance. If I go to a beach and I see a few lines on the sand, okay, might have come by chance. If I see some words written and a poem written, I'm like, okay, this is not by chance. This is not that the sea kept coming and coming and coming and like it just made a whole poem here. and everything, or the waves just kept coming and going, and this whole sandcastle was built, right? Which is so intricate, and everything is like it has windows and doors and this whole sandcastle, and somebody has built even like a picture of a person or something. They've made a little like statue or something out of this. This didn't just come out by chance. The more perfection we see, the more we know there is a creator, right? There is a Rabb, and that Rabb is who's managing this earth, this sun, the moon, who's moving huge bodies of mass, moving at astronomical speeds and everything, and yet not crashing into each other. Like we have license to drive, and yet when we are driving on the road, we have accidents, we have things going on. We train so much to drive, and yet we cannot drive this small car going on the road. We cannot 100% guarantee there won't be any accidents and everything. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is driving these huge bodies, celestial bodies, with such high speeds, astronomical speeds that we can't even like imagine, and yet they're not crashing into each other. They're going on and on and on and on, and for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, right? So we think, and then we reach upon these conclusions that, ya Allah, you are you are far too perfect to you have put so much perfection in everything, so much nothing that is happening around me. Some things that can be very pleasurable, some things can be very painful, but no matter what it is, nothing is meaningless. You do not create anything which is meaningless. So we start thinking about that, ya Allah, you are there, right? And like there are people who don't think about this, then they can measure and explore the heavens and the earth and do all these scientific experiments, everything, but they won't reach God. They won't reach that, okay, who created God. But ulil albab, when they do these two things, when they remember Allah and look at everything, they will reach the conclusion that yes, there is a creator, right? And how could we not observe, how could we observe such minuscule particles through microscope and study these like little things, and yet miss the most significant and obvious truth of the universe, that this universe has a creator, a God that watches over it, and by extension a day of reckoning that is inevitable. And a human reasoning, if it is sound, if a person has a sound mind, then even if that person is not a Muslim, when they come across the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they know that there is God. Even though they don't know anything about Islam or something, they will know in their heart there is a God. I talk to my God in my heart. I don't know who God is, but I talk to my God in my heart. Right? And when they come across the Quran, they're like, yes, that's it. This is the truth. And they will see the truth because when they're ulil albab, when they're clear, when their heart is clear, and when they come across it, just like a healthy eyes, when somebody has healthy eyes, they can see the sun. They can see there is sunlight, so there is sun outside, right? It is morning. I can see the sunlight outside. I have healthy eyes. Similarly, when a person's heart is pure, is sound, if they are ulil albab, then they will see the truth. They will recognize the truth, right? And then they will start worrying about themselves. The next stage would be they would start, okay, if all this is purposeful, if everything has a purpose, that means I have a purpose too. And if I have a purpose, what if I end up not fulfilling it? What if I fulfill it? What can I get? And what if I don't fulfill it? What my punishment might be there, and what I need to save myself from? So they want to save themselves from the fire, and they say, فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And they start thinking about the provisions of the hereafter, right? So if our minds are in the right place, and we are seeking from the right place and everything, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show us the way. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our heart is clear, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show us the way. Some people just like, okay, I don't know, nobody gave me dawah, but I just came to Islam. Some people, it happens with many people like this. It was just like things kept happening like this, and I just ended up being a Muslim and everything. Whatever could be the means, Allah ta'ala will show the way. Allah ta'ala will bring them. And then this dua will come to the mind of such a person that, Ya Allah, this is not in vain. Right? So like we can learn about the science all around us, the earth, we know about the plantations and this and that and everything, but we cannot disconnect it. When we connect these two, dhikr and fikr, when we connect them two, and we just like we keep doing the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it won't teach us how to reach the moon. That science will teach us, right? And we cannot put just science and materialism ahead of us so much that we we just start saying the universe is our God, or the universe does this, or the universe. It's nowadays it's like we see people using the term, they just don't want to use the term God. So what they have created, oh, the universe will bring this to you. The universe has this energy. The universe will bring this to you. You when you put something out to the universe will kind of like bring this to you and everything. Or it's Mother Nature doing this. No, no, there's no Mother Nature. There is God, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, who controls the nature, who has put the laws of nature in place and everything, who has put it, like anybody who has put this law that whatever we strive for, he will give it to us, whether it is in the right path or the wrong path, right? So in this ayah, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a holistic package for the Muslim ummah, right? That first you do dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you establish the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you become of those people who will remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time, and then you do this fikr on the kainat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Islam does not stop us from progress. In fact, if it was true, then how can the golden age of Islam be explained? The advancements that were done by Biruni, Haytham, all these pioneers of science in the Muslim history. When Europe was in a dark ages, it was dark ages for the Europe, but it was enlightenment in the Muslim lands. And then it was all taken away because then Muslims, there are also parts of our history that we are not proud of. But we need to acknowledge that parts of our history that we were at the peak. But then we started getting engrossed with the world and the dunya and the desires of the dunya and everything. And that led to the decline of the Muslim ummah. Because that's the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do progress, then we will see kind of progress that that the world has not seen before. Right. So Muslims, until Muslims were active on both these fronts, dhikr and fikr, like doing work for this dunya while being really mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they were active and they were leaders and pioneers and everything. And the situation today, what we see happened by the decline of them, right? Then when people became lazy, when people started putting their wealth, their own self, their own health, their own bodies, their desires, their mutual power struggles to prove like my way or the highway, when somebody gets stuck in that, and Muslims left the seat of leadership in science, then atheists took over of that. But if we look at the Quran itself, the teachings of the Quran, there is no clash between Quran and science. Right? The ibadah, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just in the masjid. It can be done in a forest. It can also be done in a space shuttle. Right? And the soul of the worship is love. Soul of worship is love. And that love comes from the heart. And when a person has the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they're like such a like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al Akbar. He is the greatest. How can I go against him? How can how can I do something to please any other human being that will displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? Then a person does not have, when a person reaches that stage, when a person becomes like ulul albab, then nobody has to tell them to go pray their salah. Right? Then nobody has to tell them to want to go give some charity. They're looking for ways to give charity. They're looking for, Ya Allah, like, okay, I have done my salah. What more can I do? Can I add some more nafil salah? Should I wake up for tahajjud? Should I do this? Should I do that? And even if they're not able to do it, they want to do it. They have this desire to do it, right? And this azmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this kamal, this jamal, the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the grandness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that comes on their heart. That comes on their heart, and they end up saying La ilaha illa anta. Ya Allah, there is no God but you. And then what happens when we say Subhanakal, that there is no God but you and everything, then we start to feel our own self as smaller. Like we don't think of our own self as very big, because until we are mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we think we are everything. I'm it. I'm a big deal. And that's why we see like during teenage and everything, children go through that phase, because like they're like, I'm everything, right? No, okay, like I know everything. Come on, you don't know. The parents, you don't know everything. Like my mom doesn't know much. My dad doesn't know much. Like, okay. But as they grow up, as they grow more and more, they realize, you know what, mom was right about this. Dad was right about this, right? When life humbles us, right? Then we realize we are small. Then when we humble in front of somebody who's bigger than us, right? And when we different experience in our life also, they're also signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They teach us that when people break our hearts, for example, when we were looking at different people and we had such high expectations from certain people and they break our hearts, then we're like, no, I cannot live my life living like this person or this relationship or everything. This is not all that I'm made for. This could not be all that I'm made for. And then our eyes go from the creation to the creator, that ya Allah, no, you are the one who's constant. You are the one who will never humiliate me, right? And when we this personality develops, then this whole kainat, this whole universe starts to become like an open book. We start to see things that we haven't seen before. The same tree that a seed going out of the thing, a botanist will look at it and is like, wow, the seed, it's like so powerful, the little shoot, it came out of the earth, and it kind of like it had so much force in it that it break through the hard earth, and this small delicate plant came out of it. But a believer, when he looks, like, you know what, all of my body will be destroyed except this little piece at the end of my backbone, which the Prophet ﷺ told us, that little part, little seed of a human being, that part is not destroyed. The earth eats up all the rest. Thousands of years, somebody is buried under the ground, everything else is gone. But that little part at the end of the backbone is left, and this will be like a seed on the day of judgment, and the human beings will grow out of it just like the seed grows. So when a believer sees the shoot growing out of the seed, out of the land, they don't just, they're thinking about how amazing the seed is, and the thing is how amazing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put things, but they're also thinking about the day of judgment. They're also thinking what will happen at that time when I come out of the ground after I've been buried for so long, right? So a person, when they start to see all these things, right, when they start to see also another thing they realize, the more we look around, is that nothing is useless. And when this whole universe, when I see everything around me is serving me, is taking care of me, somebody has put all of this to take care of me. The bees are producing honey for me. The sun is rising and setting for me so that I can work and then I can rest and I can go to sleep, right? Am I that important that everything, every day I wake up, I see a beautiful sky. It is different every other day. I see some different colors in the sky every different time. It's like a beautiful painting for me to see and enjoy and everything. I did not have to look at all these colors for my survival, right? When I see all of this and I realize all of this, then a feeling of gratitude starts to come up. That, Ya Allah, am I this important to you that you are doing all of this for me? Ya Rab? Ya Rab, you love me so much. And this feeling of gratitude, as it develops into a feeling of accountability, a sense of responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put me on this world. What I have a limited life anyway. What am I going to do in this life? What am I going to leave as my legacy in this life? Am I going to, when I meet people and go, do I make people sadder than how they were? Or when I meet them and I go, do I make them happier or calmer? Does my presence make people agitated, or uncomfortable or frustrated or unhappy about themselves? Or does my presence or my interaction with me make people a bit calmer with themselves? Does it help to resolve the conflicts, or does it create conflicts? What am I doing? What kind of energy am I carrying in different places that I'm going, different groups, different people that I'm interacting with? What am I doing? Right? So all of this, when we see that everything is serving us, then we develop this thing that, okay, I have to serve too. And who do I serve? Who do I have to serve? I have to serve the one who's created all of this. Right? And this accountability is not hard to imagine. Let's say you're a guest at somebody's house, and when you're a guest at their house, they're taking a lot of care of you. They're taking care of every little bit of, like, they have towels for you, they have like all these, they have a separate room for you to stay in, they have meals for you, they're trying to find out what you like, and they're trying to give you the meals that you like and everything. Then what would you feel like? You would feel like you want to do something for them too. You want to do something to show your appreciation, even if you're not able to, it's not your house, you can't really do much for them in terms of like doing anything, but you want to show your appreciation. At least you want to not harm the things in their house. You don't want to break things in their house. They're doing so much for you. You don't want to hurt their children or everything, right? So you want to do good things. You want to fulfill our side of responsibility too, right? So along with gratitude and along with the feeling of responsibility comes accountability, and that accountability then leads to the fear of not fulfilling that accountability. And then the person asks for forgiveness. Ya Allah, I was becoming, I felt I was so big and everything. Ya Allah, I realized I'm not that big of a deal actually. The world will go on without me as well. The world was going on before I was born, and the world will continue to go on after I'm gone, right? And after I'm gone, I don't want to become the fuel of the hellfire. Ya Allah, protect me from the fire, right? And the fear then grabs these people, and the deep desire to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes a part of these people, right? They become thinking people, they become conscious people, right? And in everything they do, they want the approval of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, I'm doing things this way. I hope it doesn't, I hope I don't anger you by this. I hope I do these things in a way that you would like. Right? So this is the fikr on their mind all the time. They're always thinking, Ya Allah, like I don't want to do anything that angers you. I don't want to do anything that you don't like. Ya Allah, I want to eat what you like. I want to worship you in the way you like. I want to have my relationships the way you like. I want to interact with my relationships the way that you like. That the way will please you, right? So, so human nature becomes a part of these two things: akal and fitrat, intelligence, which wants dalil, which wants what is the reasoning for this and everything, and fitrat, which fitrat, the fitra, the spirituality, it comes by obedience to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's commands, right? So if we use too much of our mind, for example, and don't go with fitra, even if we don't think of Islam and the commands of Islam, then people get messed up by that. Like, for example, um, today, a lot of thing that is being promoted today is animalistic way of life. Oh, human being is just a social animal. But what Quran says, no, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. We have honored the child of Adam. Human being is a superior creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are not like animals. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, you're not like animals. We have a higher expectation of you. You are thinking beings, and you're supposed to, you are accountable for what you do. You're supposed to have a better life. But how shaitan is tricking us, and how the media and the society is tricking us nowadays, and even our education institutions, that you're an animal. But what does it lead to? That life, just like animals, their purpose of life is to eat, drink, build a house, do whatever they need to do, like procreation, have intimacy and everything, and give birth and whatever, and then die. That's it. That's what all their purpose is, like, and whatever else they do in between. Right? That's an animalistic way, that, okay, my purpose is just that, to I build a house, a bigger house, more bigger car, one car, two car, three cars, money, more money, leave the money for my children, do this, and that's all life is. That's all life is. No, but that's not life for human beings. But if we go just by intelligence and not by the fitra, then again, seems like a nasty example, but just to help us understand that there is a boy and a girl in a house, let's say a brother and a sister, right? Just using our mind and not using our fitra is, this is a boy and a girl. They have grown up together. Why look for somebody else outside? Why not just get them married to each other? Right? Why not just get at that? I mean, they know each other. They will be able to. They have similar tastes and everything. They will be able to do. But Fitra tells us no. They are brother and sister. No, right? So the Fitra plays a big role in everything. But when the Akal becomes away from the Fitra, then crazy things are being concocted. Then we see things like abuse happening and within the family. A'udhu billah. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from us, right? So tafakkur, different people have said, like different people of the past have said different things about the tafakkur. For example, Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah, he said that an hour spent in thinking about the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is better and far more useful than a whole night standing in worship. And Hazrat Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, he said that this deliberation is superior to, as a superior act of worship. Basically, a similar thing, that deliberation upon the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a superior act of worship, meaning it is an act of worship and it is a superior act of worship. And Hassan bin Amir, rahimahullah, he said that he had heard from many noble companions that deliberation, this thinking, tafakkur, is the light of faith. So this is the light of faith. Through this light, we will see different things. Right? And Abu Sulaiman al-Darrani, he said that when I go out from my house, everything that I cast my glance on makes me realize that it contains one or the other blessing of Allah for me. Everything that I look at, I realize that it has some or the other blessing of Allah for me. And that in its presence, I have a good source of learning my lesson. Meaning it has a reminder of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and some lesson for me. Everything that I look at, either there is both of them. In everything that I look at, there's a blessing of Allah for me, and there's a lesson that I can learn from it, right? So, Sufyan bin Uwaina, he said, reflection is a beam of light entering your heart. And Wahab bin Munabbi, he said that the one who thinks a lot will understand reality. And one who understands will arrive at sound knowledge. And one who has sound knowledge is bound to act accordingly. Right? So similarly, there are some other sayings as well. But and for the sake of the time, we leave it at that. So there are many other sayings that different people, but this is the kind of thoughtfulness and concern that that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is telling us is the superior quality of the wise people. And so anybody who does not who sees all these signs of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, yet they have seen miracles in their life, they have seen these signs of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, yet they get tangled in this glamour of the world. So glamour of the world, and what people have this, I don't have that, or I want more of this, more of this, more of this, more of this. As a result of which, what happens is they fail to know their creator. They become heedless, and the more someone fails to take the lesson from the universe before their own eyes, the more their heart will lose the ability to realize the truth. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from that. Right? So it's a very scary thing to know as well, that a person might not even realize that this is happening to them. Right? So it is said from again, to recap all of this, like remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the core of a believer. Right? And it is said from a hadith to the effect that there are only three kinds of speech that is beneficial to a person. Only three kinds of speech that is beneficial. One is to call some people towards goodness. The second, to stop people from evil. And the third is remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Other than that, nothing is beneficial. So each word we say, we know that each word we say is being recorded. Even if, like, while walking, if I hit my foot on the table or something, and I say, oh, ah, even that is being recorded by the angels. Nothing is being that I say from my mouth is left. Everything is recorded by the angels, right? And so what am I saying? Is it beneficial, right? Is it truthful? Is it necessary, right? Is it honest, right? Is it kind? What is it going to lead to? Is it going to lead people to argue with each other? Is it going to lead people to be kind to each other, to develop some kind of and may Allah forgive all of us, make mistakes. May Allah forgive all of us, right? And so another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the best, purest amal, more than even giving gold and silver in charity, and more than even fighting in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And Muad said that nothing frees people from the adab of Jahannam as much as the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any gathering which does not have the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is devoid of goodness, right? And we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. Like, for example, the duas that we have been told. We say Bismillah before eating. We say dua before leaving the house. We say dua when entering the house. We say Salaam alaikum to people. That's a dua as well. So in every situation, if we look at the things that a Muslim says all the time, we say MashaAllah, ya Allah willed it. Anything good happens, we say MashaAllah, Allahumma barik. May Allah Ta'ala put blessings in it for you. Or something good happens to me, I say MashaAllah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Allah Ta'ala has willed it. There is no power or might except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We say Alhamdulillah when anything good happens. We say Subhanallah, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pak and everything. Like when anything that is less than perfect has been mentioned or something, right? So the people say, Rabbana ma khalaqta hadha batilan subhanak, right? So they reflect on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They realize that this vast and immense universe is definitely created for a higher purpose. All this cannot continue indefinitely or just come to a sudden end without differentiating good from bad, right? Pure from evil. It cannot happen. There must inevitably be a day of reckoning when this purpose when everything has a purpose, there has to be a time when this whole purpose is fully achieved through fullest manifestation of perfect justice. We see injustices around us. And the more injustice we see around us, the more it should remind us there has to be a day of judgment when the perfect justice is given out, because we are not, somebody died suffering. They suffered their whole life and they died suffering. They did not get justice for what happened to them. Yes, somebody killed 100 people. They can be hanged once. They can be given the death penalty even. But how much death penalty will they get? One. But they killed 100 people. Is that justice? If somebody killed one person and somebody killed 100%, they both have the same punishment in this world. We cannot give them more punishment than that. But we know that in the Akhirah, every single bit of what everybody has done, there has to be a perfect justice. Before that, it is not perfect. And then we say Subhanak. And it is so beautiful that we say Subhanak, because we don't say Subhanallah. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Subhanak, meaning that we talk directly to Allah. As soon as a person does dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do gaur fikr on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and acknowledges, Ya Allah, you are the creator. Ya Allah, you didn't create anything without purpose. As soon as they do that, they're like, Subhanak. They talk directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no medium in between, no Subhanallah, Subhanak. Ya Allah, you. And when we say you, it means the second person, meaning somebody is right next to us. We understand Allah Ta'ala is closer to me than my jugular vein. I don't need anybody. And yes, I respect and love my teachers who help me to connect more to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when I'm communicating with Allah, it is a direct one-on-one. I have a direct one-on-one communication, direct one-on-one relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just as each one of you has, right? We have a personal one-on-one relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's something so unique and so beautiful about our deen, that there is no medium in between. If I need to confess anything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not a single human being has to know about it. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is a creator, and there is a creator who is subhana, subhana means that something that floats on the top and doesn't go down, meaning he is pure from any kind of weakness, of any kind of wrong. So he is pure from any wrong, anything that is bad, any shortcoming, any flaw, any weaknesses. He's pure from doing anything batil. He's too good. Like, we don't, if we think of ourselves, me and you, we wouldn't create a whole like house and build a whole house, decorate it and everything. It's like, okay, done. Now let's just destroy it, make another one. We won't do that. We will only do it if we plan to live in it or rent it out or something else. We won't do things, big, huge projects, which are meaningless. How can we expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to create this whole universe as meaningless? Right? He is pure from doing meaningless things, from letting good and evil go unnoticed without rewarding or punishing them. Somebody who does so much good in their life and passes away. Somebody who does so much evil in their life and passes away. And both of them just die and become dirt, and that's it, all done. Subhanak. Ya Allah, you're too pure for that. You have created everything with a purpose. This life is with a purpose, right? So we don't do meaningless things. How can we expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his divine wisdom to do meaningless things? How can we expect that from him? He is the creator. And if there was no creator, for example, then things would have happened by chance, or things would have continued forever once they were created. But we have a creator. There's a beginning and an end to the creation, right? He is pure, and he's not like he's not capricious, meaning he's not somebody who has sudden mood swings here and there, or like oh, today I feel like this, I'll do that. Today I feel like this, I'll do that. He did not create poor and rich, oppressed and oppressors, just to watch their misery and enjoy himself. A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. Right? We see people in this world around us that watch other people's misery and they enjoy that. A'udhu billah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is in full control, who's allowing this to happen, who's allowed some people to be poor and some people to be rich, some people to be oppressed and hurt, and some people to be oppressors, right? This is not for any kind of like a twisted pleasure or anything. A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. This is for a purpose. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the purpose. He's subhanak. He's too pure for that. He's too pure for this to be without any reasoning. And then the believers, the ulul albab, may Allah ta'ala make us of them. They didn't stop at subhanallah, subhanallah. They think way ahead, that they remember the punishment of the fire. Then they come to the day of judgment. They think about that. They see that there is nothing without a purpose. Ya Allah, I must be having a purpose, Ya Allah. And what if I don't complete it? What if I don't fulfill my purpose? What if I fail? Will I get a punishment? Will I get a punishment? right? And then they say, Ya Allah, save me from that. And they realize, Ya Allah, I'm not perfect. I know I've done many mistakes. If you were to take account of me on account of mistakes that I have done, I will be done. Even if one mistake, even if thinking, if even if you were to ask me, have I thanked you enough? I haven't thanked you enough. So if even if like for my eyesight, I haven't thanked, even if for my eyesight, I keep thanking Allah throughout my life, I would not have thanked Him enough, right? So even in thanking and saying Alhamdulillah, we are all short of it. We are all short of our what we should be doing in it. We've not done the justice to how much we should be doing it, right? So we know and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, it is only your mercy that will save me. I'm trying to do a few good things here and there. I'm trying to remember you, but I'm not remembering you enough, and I'm not doing good enough deeds. I'm trying to reflect on the creation of the heavens and the earth, but I know I'm not reflecting enough, right? And ya Allah, what if I take this world as merely as sport and enjoyment and with no higher purpose, and I just get engrossed in this and everything? Ya Allah, I see people doing it all the time. I'm a human being too, Ya Rab, and I'm afraid for myself. I'm afraid for myself, Ya Allah. And so they call out, Ya Allah, save me from the punishment of fire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people who remember Him standing and sitting and when lying on our sides in every situation of our life, no matter what situation we are going through, in sabr and in shukr, in taqwa, and in Islam, in Iman, in Ihsan. May Allah ta'ala make us remember Him all the time. May Allah ta'ala make us those people who are mindful of Him. May Allah ta'ala make us of those people who are always striving to please Him, who are always looking to increase our love for Him, and who are always seeking His love for us, and who are always understanding that, Ya Allah, this is not in vain. Ya Allah, I have a purpose. Ya Allah, I'm not meaningless. Even if nobody else values any of us, may Allah Ta'ala help us to understand, Ya Allah, I'm valuable to you, Ya Rab. I'm valuable to you. You made me a human being. Out of all the human being, you made me a Muslim. Out of all the Muslims, you made me a person who's able to connect with the Quran. You've given me the opportunity to read your word, Ya Rab. The ministers of this world don't give classified documents of their little kingdoms to anybody. But Ya Allah, you have given your word in my hands, Ya Rab. Ya Allah, help me to understand this. Help me to understand your glory. Help me to fulfill my purpose to the best of my ability. I'll never be able to do full justice, but help me to do more and more. And Ya Allah, save me from the punishment of fire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people who He saves from the punishment of fire, who He's pleased with at all the time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take care of us and all of our hearts and all of our minds, and make us the people of that He calls ulil albab. We can think of ourselves as wise and whatever, but the ones who are truly wise are the ones whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls wise. May Allah ta'ala be pleased with you and me and with all of us. Just like Allah ta'ala united us as sisters in Islam in this world, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite us as sisters in Islam under the shade of His throne on the day of judgment, when there will be no shade except His. And then once again on the day in Jannatul Firdaus. May Allah ta'ala accept our coming together, make it a means of increasing our iman and getting His pleasure. May Allah ta'ala accept from us, forgive our shortcomings. Any goodness is from Him, because He is the owner of all goodness. Any shortcomings, any mistakes are for myself. I'm a human being open to mistakes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect and forgive and preserve all of this for us. Ameen ya arhamar rahimin. Subhanakallahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.